Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Curious Texan. I'm your host, Tim Metter, and we're glad you could join us. I have an old friend today as our first guest on our initial podcast episode, number one. It's my old friend, Jerry Coplen. Jerry hails from Stonewall County, Texas, as his roots, but he now lives in Knox County, Texas. And I'm going to go ahead without further ado and just introduce Jerry and give you a little bit of background, and we'll just dive in. Hey, Jerry.
Hey man, what's
Glad to
going
see you
on?
here.
I'm glad to do it.
Just watching the Texas wind blow. Survived the storms last night. I didn't have any hail beat my roof of my house up, so I think everything's good. We got a little rain out of it anyway.
Yeah, we've missed out on all that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about living in this part of the world. Yeah,
That's right.
we miss most of it. So
Well,
yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jerry. Just a little bit of background, and before we dive in, like I said, it's I'm glad to have you here because we go way back, a long
oh
time,
yeah,
longer than we need to
longer than
admit.
won't admit.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I'm like Tim said, I'm from Stonewall. I guess our old people's about the same as his. Been there. We were there, I guess, since they opened the county up and let us in. We haven't been able to get out very many of us, but grew up there, graduated there, moved on, went to Tech, got a degree in animal science there, and just finished up. Uh, I was self-employed for about 20 years, built fence, barns, did everything in the world, drove a truck. If you if it's out there, I've tried it. About 14 years ago, I started a career with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service as the county agent in Knox County, and been there ever since. If I can make it about five more, I'm probably going to let them have it. But just my whole life and career, everything I've ever wanted to be was some facet of agriculture, primarily livestock, but some farming too. And we run a few sheep and over here, and we just kind of agriculture is our life.
Great. And it was a great way to grow up because I can attest to that. Even though I'm not directly involved in agriculture anymore, I grew up, farming dry land, cotton and peanut farming, and running a few beef cattle. We just tried to scratch out an existence, but I sure learned to work, and I would not take for that upbringing, and I know you wouldn't either. So, and it's a great way to live, and hope we can keep folks still interested in that because we got to eat, and
Hmm.
we got to survive somehow. Well, my first question, we'll get the big picture out of the way. Talking about rural America and American agriculture as a main base of this, but when we talk about the current state of American agriculture, primarily in rural America, what do you think the biggest forces are shaping or reshaping it right now, and how much of that comes back to maybe our trade policy and global competition, tariffs, all that good stuff? I'll give you the floor.
Well, it's a lot of things, but it's the big thing is it's just uncertain. Um, if we go back to where we started, just in our part of the world, our old ancestors came in and broke the ground out, and had been in grass since they run the buffalo. The buffalo been across it, and that ground was pretty fertile. It was droughty, but it's pretty fertile. But the further along we get, we basically mined it. We just there's not a lot left in it, and it kind of needs to go back to grass. But that's one thing that we've done. The land is just kind of degraded on us a little bit. Um, the other thing is probably uh, commodity prices really haven't changed much. Since they you know, were selling the stuff, they just haven't changed enough. Um, when you compare them to inputs. The other thing is we have done a great job. The American farmer has done a great job of innovating and developing technologies, to be better at what he does. The problem is about 35-ish years ago, we started exporting our technology to other countries, Brazil, China, India, wherever, you name it. And over there, they have cheaper labor, cheaper resources. They're emerging economies. They were hungry, looking for opportunity. And so that technology got exported over there, and now they compete with us on the world market. And our inputs keep going up, our labor, our everything. And that's kind of one of the big deals.
Yeah. I remember you're talking about 30-ish years ago, uh, and trade. And of course, I know the free trade agreement. You remember NAFTA when that came in. I remember
Yeah,
the late Ross Perot, when he was running for president in 1992, he warned us about this. And he was ahead of his time, I think. But,
he was.
he said there's going to be this giant sucking sound of Mexico, with jobs and all of this. And it's affected everything. Um, and it's amazing to me how prophetic he was, because virtually everything that guy said 35 years ago has come true.
It has.
He was just ahead of his time, and then the timing wasn't right for him at that time. But man, it was very prophetic. I still think about some of the things that he said. Of course, he had a way of saying
Hmm.
them too. I actually met him once.
Yeah,
So
he was a pretty cool cat. I liked him.
yeah, he was. He was a cool guy. Cool guy. Yeah. You know, my grandfather was a farmer,
Hmm.
and he ranched. And my dad told me that my granddad used to go to the bank and borrow $100 to make a crop on.
Well,
And that'll barely put diesel in my pickup today.
yeah,
If it's fully empty,
it'll
actually
top
with
it
the
off pretty
prices the
good.
way it's gone up here in the last few days, last couple of weeks, I don't know if $100 would do it or not, but we're
Yeah.
getting close. So it's really amazing uh, how things have changed over that time. Back then, uh, my dad would tell me, back in the county where we're from, there was a family on every 160 acres of land, unless it was a ranch where,
Yeah.
a big spread. But as far as just family farms, there was tons of little quarter section, 160-acre farms, and there was a family
80s. Yeah.
on
There's a
bunch of
bunch of 80s.
bunch of 80-acre farms, and now it's all gone. There's only a couple of farming families left in that county, and I'm kin to both of them.
That's right. Yeah.
So
There's not much left.
there's just not much. There's not much left. But yeah, it's wild how things change, and it's sad in a way, because you see a way of life that's going away that our kids are never going to know about.
That yeah. You know, I was thinking about it'd be my great granddad. He came in there and bought some land north of town out there in that shinnery, and I think they gave like $5 an acre, and they wondered how in the world they's ever going to pay for it. Five
Yeah,
bucks an acre,
five
but
bucks an acre.
and I grew up on all that, and there was a lot of that shinnery stuff that had been farmed, but just like you say, every 80 acres, around all of it, it was in that sand. So where they farmed it, it blew out, and when they started running cows on it, they just put a fence on top of that turn row, and then that would blow up, and they put another fence on top of that one. We've had it a long time, and it just wasn't fit for much, but uh, like kind of to your point about a great way of life, but I fully contend that our our communities, our lives were just better when we were more agrarian like that, and we had a big family living on 80, 160, you know, on a quarter. Our towns thrived, our schools thrived, our team sports thrived, you name it, and it
Right.
was just better. But when you start putting all those expenses in there, when and say they could farm that and they could make enough to make it, but here we go. One income's not enough, and mama got to go to town to teach school or do whatever she's got to do.
Yeah.
Now we got two incomes. Well, guess what? When people that sell things groceries, gas, whatever it is, cars, houses. When they figure out that there's two incomes, guess what? The price goes up again.
That's
And here we are. So we've we've just this affluency has put us back into poverty, basically. You know.
it has, and our birth rates are going the other way.
Yep.
Because back when you lived on the farm, I mean, more kids you had, that's more laborers you had.
That's
you
right.
know, you had laborers to hoe cotton or whatever, or help work cows or build fence, whatever it may be. Uh, Nowadays, it's changed. Now kids say, I can't afford to have children anymore, and I can understand that because
Right.
of what uh, costs are today. I mean, just like health insurance. I mean, my goodness, I used to not make as much money, and I used to live on it as my health insurance premium is now.
I know.
So it's just incredible how times have changed and how it's gone in the opposite. Because usually, even economists they'll tell you where populations are growing, you're having more children, um, the economy grows.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case right now. That's not the case for
No.
us. So
And all those kids that we raised on those farms, and as the family got bigger, we just couldn't expand anymore. There wasn't room for them, and they not only that they were tired of chopping that cotton, or whatever they were doing. Well, they go to where do they go? Yeah, they go to the Metroplex, go somewhere to an urban area, get a good job. Maybe they're a doctor, lawyer, whatever they are. Make a good chunk of money. Guess what? They come back and buy this stuff, and it drives the price of the land up above. They buy it for recreation, but it drives it above the value of its productivity. And so
oh
you just push more farmers out or more ranchers out.
yeah, even right today in our home county and where you live right now, if you were going to try to start out farming or ranching from scratch, and you had to buy that land, there's no way it'll pay for itself. I mean, you just can't.
No, it would be. Let me do some napkin math for you. Just on for a cow. If we want to run some cows, that cow is probably $4,000 or $5,000 right now, and you'll need at least 20 acres. But it's getting so overgrazed, degraded. We probably need to go to 30. Let's just go with 30, and it's at least 2,000. So that's $65,000 to buy one cow and run her. Yeah, that's 30 years, 30 plus years if you sell a $2,000 cow and you ain't paid any interest on it. So that's a 120-year deal if you just put the interest on it.
Uh,
That's that's 4, 5, 6 generations, and we've just gotten there in the past. That's developed in the past 30 years. In the '90s, you could still buy a piece of ranch land for a couple of $100.
yeah,
It's 10 times that now.
I remember when you could buy ranch land in our home county, Stonewall County, Texas, for $150 an acre.
Yeah.
Farmland was about 300 an acre.
Hmm.
That's good farmland. You could buy from around 300. I can remember that, but that was 35 years ago, and that has been a long time ago. But how it's gone up exponentially in comparison, to what you make. If you're a row crop, if you farm cotton or whatever, um, I don't know. I don't see how. It's really depressing when you think of it in those terms. But the only thing stimulating the local economy is the people that's coming back or that's coming out to the rural areas buying that land, like you say, for recreation. I mean,
Hmm.
that's about it. There's no cattle production or um, mutton production or anything. I know you got some of that. You got some
Yeah.
lambs. You said you run, but yeah, it's tough. Now we'll get on to commodity prices and farmer income. And question here: farmers often say they're producing more than ever, but they're making less money. So why do you think commodity prices stayed so depressed while income input costs keep climbing? And I'll let you go with that.
Well, we know that the commodity prices stay suppressed because we compete with other. that's everything we grow in this part of the world is on the global market. And there's somebody else that their labor's cheaper, their land's cheaper. There's something about it that they can put it on the market for that. And your big uh, grain buyers and cotton buyers, that they just don't have to. They kind of pay what they want to basically. So that takes care of that side of it. On the input side of it, um, one of the biggest things probably is, and people get, I read through social media and I see where people get on there and gripe about farmers getting subsidies or something or government payments. If if you really break those down, they're not enough to even really make a difference. Because what happens, so that's basically a guaranteed deal. Some of it is, there's just several programs that you can get some money back from the government on those deals. But what happens there is, if John Deere, and I'm just any of them, but let's just use a few for example. If John Deere or any of your big major chemical companies or any of your seed companies, any of those guys that furnish inputs, when they know that payment's coming, guess what? Prices go up. They put it in their deal. We basically, if you just break it right down, government payments basically subsidize corporate profits. They do not help the farmer generally. When we get a $20 or $30 an acre deal, it's just going. I mean, that doesn't even cover a shot of fertilizer anymore.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so I
that's
mean, that's where it went, and the cost of equipment, it all. I did a case study, and I've got it here somewhere, but it, I'm more familiar with wheat. I could have done one on cotton, but on wheat, if you did everything right, uh, took it to harvest and cut it, it's a $220 an acre deal. Now there's gonna be somebody listening to me, so we do it for a lot less than that. Well, you may do it, but if you're running new, not new, but if you're running decent equipment and you're putting everything you need into it, that's probably where you're at. Now, you may not be paying that much, but you're giving up something in equipment depreciation or labor. You're giving it up somewhere. But those are real prices, real costs. I mean, so $200 an acre, $5 wheat. It doesn't. I mean, our county average here is about 12. I'm actually in Haskell County, and our county average is about 12 bushels. It's probably worse in Stonewall, but if you were getting paid on the county average, that's $60 an acre. You're 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 way short.
that's 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 a poor way to go right there. So that's
Yeah.
probably, you know, next question would be um, consolidation. Consolidation in agriculture. You've got, I guess, Bill Gates. Is from what I understand, is the largest farmland, independent farmland owner in the United States. Um, and there's all kinds of theories or conspiracy theories about that. I don't know if he has any malevolent intent on that, but the facts are that he is a big landowner when it comes to farmland
Hmm.
throughout the United States, and it's crunching out small to mid-sized farms. I mean, is it just the economy of scale that, and it's just pure economics? Is that why the small farmer, in your opinion, is going away? Because the big companies with the big money, I mean, they come in and it's economy. I mean, they can do the Walmart approach.
Yeah.
They can make 10 cents right here where you can't do that, especially if you got to go to the bank and you got to borrow the money and you've got equipment payments and then maybe you're leasing your land. You don't even own it. You're leasing. You're paying a lease on that. So it makes it tough as a small operator, and that's not just in agriculture. I mean, I'm a small business owner. I can tell you that just from my perspective, and the people that I meet uh, all the time that own small businesses, it's the same thing. I
Yeah.
mean, we're getting squeezed out by private equity and corporations in
Yeah.
every facet of life. So, is there any uh, is there any comeback from that? Will be my question. I mean, where are we? Is there any hope that we'll survive that without a handful of companies controlling it all? Just kind of like, and we'll get into the cattle industry here in a minute. Beef, slaughterhouses and all that.
Yeah.
That's a whole new thing there. I mean, that's the same thing. You got a handful of those guys. But is there a way back? Do you ever see? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel, or are we just in for the long haul? Me and you probably ain't going to see a change in our lifetime.
I don't think we'll see it change just because on over the arc of history, and we talked about it when we started. There's a reason that our ancestors quit. When we shipped all our kids out to urban areas where they could actually make a living. When they sold it, somebody a little bigger bought it or took it over and farmed it. Just like those folks over there in Stonewall that you're related to. I mean, there's very few of them that farm, but they had to put a lot of acres together to make it work. And it's the same way here. We've got some guys farming 20,000 acres. But here's the thing: just on a cotton deal, our economist did a little little study on those things. A guy that did everything right on his cotton crop lost $137 an acre. Well, if I'm not a mathematician, but I do know that if I had 20,000 acres and I could pick up five more, but I was already losing 137,000 on what I already had, why would I want more?
Exactly.
So we've kind of stretched that consolidation deal out. We just the labor, the equipment, all the inputs. There's just not any slack in it at any price. And so now, and I'll just touch on this because you may want to talk about it longer, but we've reached the point where the land has more value for things like solar, AI, the data centers. And people gripe about that, but what we're living with this is a result of that. These guys that have farmed this stuff forever are not making it, and way over leveraged at the bank and looking for a way out.
And you can't blame them for taking the money.
That's right. The natural
Because
result is
is it
we're going to get out of this bind.
is it because it seems like it's a big game of musical chairs, and
Yeah,
if you're caught when the music stops playing, you're bankrupt. Uh,
that's it.
one glitch or one big dip wherever that comes from, and you're in trouble. Um, so it's just they're living off of leveraged debt. Um,
That some of the older ones they've been in it long enough that they had some equity. When times were better, they had some money put up, but they're either eating through that or they're eating it on their equipment depreciation or something. They're not trading tractors. They're right. We're going to go another year. They're just cash flowing, but we're getting to the point where some of that's going to stop.
right.
It's just not going to pencil out, and they know that, but that's all they've ever done. So they're
Sure.
kind of stuck.
Sure. Uh, yeah. I mean, I've got family. I've got an uncle. He's farmed his whole life. He's in his 80s now, and he's still going. I get tickled at him. But
He
he's
ain't
tough
going to
as a
quit.
boot. Tough as a boot. No, he's not going to quit. He's still rolling with it. Yeah. Well, you talked a little, you hit on it a little bit earlier. Uh, when a family farm or ranch disappears, you know, what's the impact on the rural community around it? I mean, you and I know that, but our listeners may not. The schools, the businesses, and just the town in general, and just the overall mindset of people that still live there. Um, I know when I was growing up, me and you were growing up, when we were in high school. I mean, I still remember we had like 1,300 and something population on the city limit sign. Now it's 700, and
Yeah,
so
it's been cut in half.
we've lost virtually half of the population of town, and then excuse me, and I don't know what the numbers are for the county, but I mean, obviously in our little home county, there's less than 1,000 people in the whole county, residents there. So that's impacted things quite a bit. So how do you see um, getting into beef prices? We'll segue a little bit into beef cattle. You know, of course, beef is it's very expensive.
Hmm.
If you like steak like I do, every time I go, I'm like, this is really expensive. But you know, I'm still buying it though,
Yeah.
and that's it. I'm trying to keep buying it because because I like to eat beef. Now you've got companies that make fake meat. Okay, they're 3D printing. I don't know what it
That
is.
that sounds delicious.
Some kind of slurry or something. But I mean, that's crazy. And I don't know if it's legal to sell here. I know in other countries they're doing it, but that's kind of scary to me when they get it down enough where you can't tell the difference. I guess ignorance may be bliss by then, but I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
it's kind of scary because you know when hamburger meats, you know, getting close in some places to $10 a pound, depending on where you go. Um, that's high, especially for working
Hmm.
class or people that are just trying to keep the lights on and some food on the table.
Yeah. It's I don't. Yeah. It's an all time. It's crazy. I think the numbers on that are we eat about the average person eats about 60 pounds of beef, but they eat about 100 pounds of chicken. So we're living off chicken mostly. I don't know what the number on pork. I'm sure it's higher than beef because it's cheaper than beef. But we're pretty picky, or not picky, but we're pretty stubborn about beef. We're going to eat it till we can't. And the fake meat deal, I don't think, best I can tell, it's really on the decline for now until they get some kind of. I mean, the government's going to have to basically just sponsor it and get it to price levels at or below beef before people are going to, they're just it's just not going to take off until it gets priced
E-
right.
exactly, exactly. Um, you know, you was talking about AI and the data centers and everything that's coming to Texas. I mean, I read the other day Texas is, as of right now, it's like maybe $3.5 trillion commitment to AI data center development in Texas. $3.5 trillion
Yeah.
um, just in Texas. And you know, I know where you live. You know, in Haskell County, Google's building a big deal in the
Yeah.
plans and many nuclear reactors and all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure it's making people's heads spin around there because you've gone with dwindling population to all of a sudden these trucks roll in and things starts happening. And I can see the positive in that, but I can also see the negative too. And I guess sometimes you got to take the bad with the good. But I mean, I'm glad it would help the economy. My question in all of that, of course, you live out there and you talk to farmers all the time, is how are they going to get water for this? Barely got enough water to keep people going in these little towns. I mean, and from what I understand, data centers consume a huge amount of water. Now, I understand that they may have a closed system, like a car uses a
Yeah.
radiator, but still, they're going to have some
Yeah.
evaporation or waste or whatever. I mean, they can't just fill the tank up one time, and that'll be it. So what do you
Well,
think?
and that's the great mystery that we hear that all the time that it's closed loop, there's minimal loss. I really think right now the biggest use of water is just building the things. It takes a lot of water just to build them. And I think that's where most of the water usage is going to go, is just in construction. But I hear all kinds of crazy stories about them. But that's one of my biggest concerns is water, and the other one is electricity. I know that they're going to, they're going to try to, but we're a ways off from having those nuke powered, generators. So they got to be on the grid with us, and they're putting some solar together that that's going to tie into all that, and that should help them. But still, is it going to be enough? I was reading an article about this was in Louisiana. They put the data center in, and all the and the population used an X amount. They've always used a certain amount of electricity that was generated. The data center comes in and they use a lot more. 2 or 3 times what the population uses. Well, guess what? They use so much, they get a sweetheart deal on the rate,
Of
but the
course they do.
population
Of course.
doesn't. You and I live there, we'd be paying. Ours goes up. Well,
Yeah,
when ours goes up, all that means is we're subsidizing that.
that's it. That's
I
it.
don't want to compete with those. I'm all for new technology. I'm not a Luddite, but I shouldn't have to be competing with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's
Because
that's another scary
because
part.
who does high energy prices affect the most? The poor.
Hmm.
In the working class. I mean, they're if you're on a fixed income or you're working for wages, and then all of a sudden your energy cost to heat your home, um, put gas in your car, whatever, go up dramatically. I mean, that affects you at the end of the month. There's too much month at the end of the money. Is that I think that was a
Hmm.
country song, wasn't it? Yeah, it affects the poor. So wherever we have cheap energy, which I've always been a champion of that. Just what little bit of about economics that I know. Um, Cheap energy is the key to a successful civilization, because if the poor and the working class are suffering, then things aren't looking good for you.
They got to go to work. They're the ones that have to go to work.
They gotta go to work.
But you know, and they got to eat. They got to keep that house going. But
That's it.
yeah, this is just an overarching. Again, going back over the arc of history, since I mean, This has been going on since 50s and 60s. But what's happening is basically an erosion of the middle class. You know, there's going to be. You talk about poor people. There's more and more people, middle class, moving to poor than middle moving up. There's no room at the top. There's less and less room at the top.
I um, read a statistic recently that 40% of the population of the United States can't put their hands on $1,000.
Boy, there's some days I fit right in that category.
I was waiting for that.
Let me know what
Yeah,
where
me
my
too. I feel
where my
like
phone
Peter.
at. I need to check my account.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, they're so strapped, and you know the old saying I heard a guy say a long time ago. Many Americans are, they're 2 weeks away from bankruptcy, and hey, I've been there, um, done that, got the T-shirt. I'm trying to stay out of
Hmm.
that, but I don't know. I'm trying to ride it out as long as I can. Um, I'm 57, and you're close behind, and I don't know if I'll get a Social Security check or not, Jerry. I don't know. I mean,
I'm not
I hope
planning on it.
I'm
I
not
never have
planning on it.
planned on
I'm not planning on it. I've never planned for it. It'd be nice. It'd be a nice thing to have, in about 10 years from now. But I'm not planning on it happening.
it. No.
So where do you think AI? Of course, we know AI is changing things right now, but in everything that we do, especially digitally. But down the road, you got Elon Musk. He's building these robots, and others will follow suit. The Chinese are really heavy into it. He said someday the robots they're gonna they'll go hoe your cotton for you, and they don't ever take a day off, and they don't call in sick, and it it's an exciting thing to think about, but it's also scary at the same time. It's like the Jetsons have really come to life.
Hmm.
With flying cars, that they say is right here on us, and uh, Rosie the robot. Wasn't that the Jetsons robot's name? I wouldn't mind
I
having
think
one of
so.
those one of these
Yeah,
days. But you think about it, and it's kind of cool, but it's also kind of scary. So, how do you
yeah.
think AI is going to in robotics and stuff's going to go into agriculture, primarily farming, especially row crop farming and wheat farming and all that. Excuse me.
Well, they've already got some prototypes, for tractors. That Tim, I've lost you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we might have to edit this part. You just froze up. I'm
We're
like,
good. We're good. We're good. We're good. I think I
okay,
paid. I think I paid my internet
what's
bill.
going on? You froze up again.
Yeah. I don't know.
Give it a second, I
Never
guess.
know. Technology. We're talking about all this great technology, and here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're clear back up. Do you want to
Clear back up.
rephrase? Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see you
I
moving.
was talking about what you think the future, and you were starting to talk about, we've already got prototypes with AI and agriculture, robotics. I know right now, you've got, I understand you have drones that they're big, large drones, and you can either buy them or you can pay a company to come and they'll fertilize or they'll spray pesticide or herbicide or whatever, and they don't ever have to touch the ground.
Right. Yeah. Those are.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Those are already. The prototypes are out there for those kind of tractors. I guess my question is, you know, uh, who who's going to be able to afford that? I mean, it looks to me like it's going to be you're going to be working for Bill Gates and running programming his tractor to go across the field. The robots. I was watching. I was reading another article and they were talking about just what things cost, and this is not on a per hour basis. For whatever it is, just to make life function in the United States, and the cost per hour is $46. The projection is the when the robots get put into place, that goes from $46 to $2 an hour. So that doesn't leave much room for anybody making 20 or 30 bucks an hour, if that makes any sense.
I listen to Elon Musk. Obviously, he's doing something right,
Yeah,
and I don't. He's a human being. I think the guy's a genius, but he talks about, you know, eventually robots they're going to farm your crops and they're going to do all this and they're going to do all that and they'll even build you a house if you want to and all that. But my question is, what are we going to do with all that time? I mean, if everyone has universal basic income, number one, they got control over you.
yeah,
Because if you or I say the wrong thing tonight, they'll cut our little deal off and we can't go buy groceries or get a hamburger tomorrow.
yeah. There went my $1,000.
There went your
I
thousand
still
dollars.
don't have $1,000. I couldn't keep my mouth shut.
Um, that's my question on it. And you know what my grandmother, idle mind is the devil's workshop or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
truth in that. When I don't have anything to do, I get in trouble, in one form or another. I mean, I get bored,
yeah,
and usually bad decisions follow that. And
right.
so I need a purpose. I need something to do. We're built to work uh, and to do things. And
Hmm.
I'm just wondering how that's going to work. Because I know people that they work their whole lives and they never do anything, never have any fun. take vacations or whatever. You know, they're trying to hoard as much money, or I shouldn't say hoard. They're trying to save as much money as they can because
Yeah.
they probably didn't have anything growing up, and they
Hmm.
want to have as much as they can when they get to the end of the road, so they can retire and they can go play golf all day, or they can go ride horses. They can do whatever. But you know, eventually that gets old to me. I mean, I've
Yeah.
talked to people that have retired, and they are just, some people enjoy it, but some people I know, after they don't have a purpose anymore, their mind's not working, their body's not working, they get sick and they die.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my biggest question on that. That's all. That sounds all cool. You know, I can get a robot to do whatever, scan you. You know, they say you won't need to go to the doctor anymore. But what are we going to do? You know,
I
what are
don't
we going to
know.
do with all that time? What am I going to do
We'll
with my
probably,
$1,000?
yeah, we'll probably die of boredom. But you know, uh, you're talking about, you were just talking about people that had retired, or you know, when we were growing up, they, you know, what they tell us: get a job or go to college, get a job, save your money, then retire. All right, that worked until now, basically. But now we've got a whole generation that does not even have that hope. We still tell them that. In fact, I did a program at school today where we talked about careers and finances and real life situations. After it's over, I was talking to some of the teachers and administrators. And like, I really feel like, you know, I can't say what I want to say, but we've got a generation now, and we've probably had them for 10 years. They were raised on social media, they were raised on technology, but they've seen how things have played out. They don't even have the same, they've given up, a lot of them. They don't see any future. You know, I'm old, and I still, even as grim as I can see things how they could turn out to be, I still have some hope and some fire to try something. But I'm afraid we have a generation going forward that doesn't share that with me. And I don't think that what you're asking me even crosses their mind. But so I don't know what we'll do.
Well, you know, we see, you know, not to try to dive too deep into politics on this episode, maybe the next one. You know, you look what happened recently in New York City. You know, they elected a 34-year-old, he's socialist,
Yeah,
communist, whatever you want to call him, Marxist
yeah,
mayor, because the young people feel like they have no hope. And what, and we look back in history, where does people tend to go when that happens? You know, collectivism. I need you to
yeah.
take care of me. I need you to
We
give
got to
me
stick
things to
together.
do. We got to
Yeah.
stick together, and we're all going to get paid. And you and I know through history and just through watching things that have happened in our lives that that doesn't work long term. It sounds really good. Um,
Hmm.
this utopian world of collectivism. But, you know, and we've been on a semi socialist platform since what, 1913, when they started Social Security. And then not long after that,
Especially in the 30s.
started the Federal Reserve. And then
Yeah,
that's a whole nother episode there.
yeah,
And then, you know, the New Deal that Roosevelt brought in the 30s, you know, during the Depression. So we have a little bit of that anyway. But, you know, my thing is that, you know, I listen to young people, but there is hope because the youngest ones, like the ones, I've got some teenage grandchildren, they don't believe anything they hear on TV or whatever. They have s- learned to think for
yeah.
themselves. And I'm thankful for that because
Hmm.
they're like, nah, I don't think we're going down that road because I I'm looking right here and you know, pointing to their
Yeah,
phone. That's not true.
yeah.
So they're questioning everything, which makes me uh, proud in a way, and it gives me some hope for us, Jerry. You know, when we get old,
Uh
not
huh.
that they're going to take care of us by any means, but that there is hope for civilization, maybe,
Yeah.
just maybe. Yeah.
Well, you know, we are what we're dealing with, and the reason we're dealing with this is, you know, we were raised in the capitalism free market system, and there's room for everybody at the table, and if you work hard enough, you can have whatever you want. Well, that's, you know, the American dream, but we're right. It's not exactly true. It's been corrupted because I'm a free market guy, but you can't have a free market when you have governments that protect the folks at the top. When corporations can go to Congress and get things passed, protect their profits and their power circle, and it puts your middle class into the, you know, if it moves us down in the lower class, well, guess what?
Yeah.
That's just what happens. You have young people that have no hope and they revolt against that. And we're reaping the whirlwind of it. But because the capitalism that they spoke of, they taught us about, is not the capitalism in practice. They practice the crony capitalism. They look out for themselves. When I just go back, I'll tie it all the way back to the front when we were talking about shipping technology to other countries. Let's talk about NAFTA for just a second. When, you know, Brazil was an emerging country, land that had not been super productive, had not been exposed to much production agriculture. They had a cheap labor market. They had a government that was hungry for any kind of growth. When you take somebody from any of these corporations, just name one, because they all went. As soon as that NAFTA deal came, they went to Mexico, they went everywhere. But they went to Brazil and they took all that technology down there and they were able to, they're still making the same money that they've always made and more. It's a captive market. They just go where the labor's cheap, the land is cheap, the profit margins stay the same or grow, and they can still keep the American farmer on the hook. You know what I'm saying? It's a crony system. It's not free. It's not a free market. Anyway, so we're reaping the whirlwind for that.
Yeah, that's a you know our national economy is um, what are we up to? $39 trillion in debt. I can't even put my mind around that
Yeah,
figure.
yeah.
And we were
It's
talking
another
we were
trillion
talking
every
about
100 days or something
we
like
were
that.
talking about the musical chairs. You know, when the music stops, I'm wondering where we're all going to be left at that. I mean, the haves, the ones at the very top, they're going to be okay, and then the rest of us, I think, are going to be screwed if that happens.
Yeah.
That's a scary thing, but we've seen this coming for a long time. Um,
Hmm.
I think our uh, system, our monetary system, and everything, they really backed themselves into a corner back in '08. Um,
Yeah.
you know, when they started the I'll never forget when they started the quantitative easing, and my wife and I were watching the news one night, and they're like, the Feds, announced quantitative easing, and I remember my wife looking at me and saying, "What does that mean?" I said, "That's a funny or that's a fancy way of saying we're printing money out of
Yeah.
thin air, which they actually don't print it anymore. It's just some clicks on a mouse and adding zeros to
Here's the new
balance,
number, guys.
the balance sheet." Yeah,
Yeah. And they just cranked it up again. What, November, December, January, somewhere the Feds cranked it up again. They put another whatever 70 billion in it so far.
yeah. And the non-farm payroll is down. I know the numbers just came in. It's down worse than they thought. And then we've got in the last, excuse me, couple of days, some real big heavy hitters in the financial world are they're coughing a little bit
Yeah.
because of um, private credit. Basically, private credit's not just me borrowing some money from you. Private credit is basically
Loan sharks.
the junk the junk loans back that started the
Yeah.
whole housing crisis back now, financial crisis back in '08.
Yeah.
Basically, subprime loans. That's what I was
There
trying
you
to
go.
look at. They just renamed it. Instead of subprime loans, it's called private credit now. So if you got a 500 credit score, uh, you borrow the money from this guy, and you're paying him 14%, and he's borrowing it for 6 or whatever. But then when you can't pay him, he can't pay the 6. I mean, that's kind of where we are right now. So I don't know if
Exactly.
we're starting to head into something, because J.P. Morgan was one of those uh, people today, and that's pretty big hitter. So
Got to be. But what the one thing they proved though, they exposed themselves in '08 was they're not going to let each other fail. Now they let that what they let they let Bear Stearns go down, but J.P. Morgan just bought them for $2, and they all just went to work for J.P. Morgan. And started back. It was not a good deal, but too big to fail. That's where that came from. We've got to bail them out. Well, why? You know,
well, if you look back um, to, I hate to bring up the C word, COVID. Everybody wants to forget about that, but
we're not well known enough yet for anybody to censor us. So roll
5 or
on.
6 years ago, when that came out, and they locked the whole world down, but you could still go to Home Depot,
Yeah.
but you couldn't go to Bob's hardware store. They shut him down, and I looked at it then, and I'm like, man, this is not right. You know,
Uh-huh.
Walmart was open, all the major big box retailers were open. They were essential, but the little mom and pops weren't. And how many thousands and thousands of families lost their businesses because of that? A
Yep.
bunch, a bunch. And they don't talk about that anymore.
No. No. I always love the example of you know the Affordable Care Act. When in 2010 when they came out with that, they were fighting over, and 70% of the American people said we don't want it, and they passed it anyway. And guess who didn't have to take it? Congress.
They didn't. That's right. That's right.
You
And most
know,
people don't. Most people don't realize
uh-uh.
that they
The,
don't
and
have
the,
to
the
take it.
the folks in favor of it say, "Oh, it put 30 million people on the insured 30 million people." Well, it underinsured the rest of us. It was just an equalizer. The other thing it was, it's another way of subsidize. They subsidize the healthcare, and guess what? Our healthcare costs gone through the roof because they know that money is there. The government's going to
I
take care of them one way or the other.
Being a small business person, I got my renewals for health insurance, and I offer it, to my full time employees, and I pay for it. And then my wife and I are on that same plan. Our plans went up to, if I kept it, I'm having to trim it. I'm like, we just need catastrophe insurance. Give me the just basics. If something bad happens, y'all let me go to the hospital. That kind of deal. Went up to $1,500 a month a piece.
Oh my!
So mine and my wife's health insurance premiums, if I keep this plan I'm on, will go to $3,000 a month May the 1st. And I'm like, we can't do that. I mean, it's just not feasible. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy what it costs. Um, I was in a shop today, another small business, and we were just talking about life, and I said, yeah, I just had to buy another car and I had to put a roof on one of my business's buildings. And, just, it's always something. People think if you own a business that you're just
Just cash
rolling,
flow, just
it's
rolling
just,
it.
it's all profit. But they don't see behind the scenes everything that you're spending money on. And you're hoping that you got enough to make it at the end of the month, have a little bit of left for yourself. But, we were talking and they're the same way. Um, it's really tough for small businesses to exist
Hmm.
just because of that. Because we small business owners pay the highest insurance rates in the industry. We just do because they can charge it to us. What are we going to do?
That's it. That's it. They can do it.
They can. I mean, and we can scream and yell, but it's just me. So I don't have any power. I can call them up and yell on the telephone, but they're going to laugh at me or hang up or not even answer it. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, we're going to segue into a little bit of geopolitics before we get out of here because
Oh God.
we got this thing called the war or the conflict or whatever you want to call it in Iran. I'm not, like I say, we're not here to bash one side or lift one side up or the other. There's a reason this podcast is called A Curious Texan because I'm curious. Usually, may ask a bunch of dumb questions because I just want to know. And,
Yeah.
you know, I, I hear arguments from proponents of what's going on right now, and they make a very good case. And then I turn right around and I listen to somebody, and they're very well qualified as well, and to talk me out of it. And I'm just at the point now. I'm like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know where to go on this. I'm not there. I'm trying to rely on credible information, but in this information age, you got to be careful who you listen to because you don't even know if it's real or not. With AI, I get stuff all the time. It looks really good. And if you really watch it and think logically, you realize that's not real. But some people
Yeah.
will just take it as real.
Oh, if they see it, it's got to be true.
It's got to be true.
Wherever they
It's
see it, it's just I
on the
see it.
internet.
It's true.
It's got to be true. But, obviously, energy prices, fuel, oil prices. I don't know what oil is today. I know yesterday,
I think it's around 90. It's been
about 90
climbing
bucks.
all day, but
About 90 bucks, West Texas.
that's a
Well,
pastime of mine. Just watch the stock. I don't have anything to worry about. I mean, my pastime is just watching the oil price go up, the stock market go up or down, and gold prices. I enjoy watching that, because some people just flip out over that, But
yes, yes. Probably
it's just a pastime.
if we all turned off the TV and all everybody and got off social media for about 2 weeks, I think the world would probably go back to normal. But that's
There's a
not
lot
going to
of truth to
happen.
that.
That's
No,
not going to happen. And I'm just as guilty as anyone. I'm sitting here, I get my phone, and what's the first thing
doom
I got?
scroll.
I got to see if Jerry, if he's a grandfather yet.
Yeah,
And which that's coming up, isn't it?
yeah, I may.
All right, man.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Congratulations.
thank you.
And yeah, I'm distantly kin to this
Uh huh.
grandchild of yours coming up. So yeah.
Yeah, we can folk now.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, but as far as conflict in the Middle East right now, um, do you see that short term? I don't know if it does it, but long term, if this extends on, which I hope it doesn't, uh, how's that going to affect agriculture directly? Do you think, or at least in
A
rural
fertilizer go through the roof.
fertilizer?
Diesel go through the roof. Yeah, those will be the biggest ones. But commodity prices, particularly your grains, could go up.
Right.
So, but it'll be a wash or it'll still be a wash or a negative. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not going to be now. I mean, for the farmer now, the people
because
that
of fuel
trade,
costs.
yeah, the people that are trading grain, and that's all they're doing is buying and selling grain. They're going to make some money. They're going to make some money whether it goes up or down. It doesn't matter to them.
Right. They're like the bookie. He's going to
Yeah,
make the juice anyway off the bet.
we'll either have an option or a put. Call whatever. If it's riding it down, we're going to make it. We just need it to move.
Right.
We're going to make some money.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's I look back. We get all involved, and if you want to go in a panic mode, just turn on the TV or social media
yeah,
because they read they listen to what we say, and they see what we look at, and of course they tailor ads about every third or even 2/3 sometimes of my content on social media anymore is not people that I know that I'm interested in. It's an ad. And I'm like, how did they know I was thinking about
yeah.
that? And I've been guilty, man. I fall into that clickbait. I'll fall for it. You,
How they know I need a new bicycle?
how they know I need that? Yeah, yeah. It's always something like that. But no, man. I think, uh, as I said earlier, if we all put the phones and tablets down for a couple of weeks, it would probably that would be the great reset right there. Everybody kind of go back to normal like it used to be.
Yeah,
But
there's a movement to that. I mean, there are people that are it's kind of a renaissance. They're just kind of going off. I mean, they're just not completely quitting, but they just don't. I think they've just overloaded. They just don't pay any attention. I don't. I mean, I scroll some and quite a bit. I look around, but I don't post much anymore. It's just I got other
I,
stuff going on.
I don't either. Anything I'll post, when I get this episode up, I'll post it and share it. And I hope what I didn't do in the introduction, if you're still with us, please like, share, and subscribe. I got to be like all the other podcasters
That's
because
right.
that helps put it out there in front of other people. But no, this is for fun, and it's it's interesting. And being the first one, I'm enjoying it thus far.
I don't mind being I'm a
And
pig, so I might as well be a guinea pig.
be a guinea pig, and yeah, may have to be a recurring guest, and we'll have to frame up some other
Uh,
stuff to
yeah,
chat
heck
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be fun.
So, what about do you think just just us talking? How do you think this thing in uh, Iran? Do you think it's going to be over quick, or are we bogging ourselves down into something that we can't get out of, and there's no off ramp that's going to make that's going to let the politicians save face? Put it that way. I mean, we could get out of it at any time, but what do you think?
I don't know. I've wondered about that. I've kind of gone full Switzerland on that. I'm kind of neutral. I just there's so much anxiety around that thing. From all sides. Everybody's just so stirred up about it. What I can't get a good gauge on is what the truth is to how well we're handling it. I feel like we probably are, but the other side of it, Iran is a big country, and they had a pretty strong government. I mean, it's a horrible government, but they're pretty stout in that region, and I think it would if I don't think we can go long term because we couldn't even get anything done in Afghanistan, and that was just a bunch of tribes.
Exactly.
The, so these
And
guys, I
and
mean,
we gave up, and all those lives and
yeah,
trillions of dollars between that and Iraq. I mean, I'm just like, oh man, I hope we're not getting into another one of those type deals because this isn't Iraq. This is the what's left of the Persian Empire. There's 90+ million people, and it's
92, 92
it's
million.
and it's 6 times the size of Iraq. I mean, it's a big country with a lot of land mass, and I hope they know what they're doing. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I listen to people that are very smart. They're all in, and I listen to some that are very smart. They're no way, and I'm just like, I hope since we are in it that we've made the right decision, and hopefully we can get out of that thing without
Hmm.
with the world going totally
Boom.
totally boom, and then our $1,000 won't matter anymore, Jerry.
I I come at it from a totally different perspective. We have a certain group that says we're in there to get rid of because we can't let them have nukes. That's our main news line. That's the main news story that are supporting it.
And
But
that's
on the
probably
other side,
a partial truth.
it is. It is. Yeah, but the opponents of it say we're just fighting Israel's war. Well, there's some truth to that too. But
Right.
here's my theory, and I've just picked this up in the last couple of weeks, just listening and reading. And I don't know if you know this or not, but in that region, there are six, I don't know what to call them. They're equity groups. They're based on the petrodollar, but they're in the Arab states. In the Dubai area was probably where they're centered, but they're from all over that region, and they're in its petrodollars. There's about is it? I think there's $2 trillion or more of those petrodollars basically that are coming over into our new AI system. I mean, they're investing in our AI race basically. All
Okay.
right, and so my understanding of it is they can if they can't if they don't invest that money with us in our AI race, they've got to spend it defending themselves against Iran. And so to protect that investment, that's why we attacked Iran. That's what I think.
Well, that's a good
We
point.
did.
I haven't thought about that, but it makes sense because I was watching a guy today, and he's got a friend in Dubai, and extreme wealth there, uh, trillions of dollars, as you say. But they're getting shot at now, and so they're really not knowing what to
Yeah.
do.
Well,
They're kind
well,
of
think about it.
yeah,
Think about it. When we attacked them, one of the first things they did was lob. They started attacking Dubai. All those people around them that were nearly allies to Iran, but they were more friendly to us. They started attacking those people.
right.
But it's people that had finances invested over here. So that kind of solidifies it for me.
Well,
The other two parts, there's some truth to them, but
yeah,
I think it's the money.
the old adage, follow the money. Um, it's still there. It's still there
Hmm.
in geopolitics, and we'll get on the Russia Ukraine thing. Hell, it may be over by the time we do this again because I think we're looking for an off ramp there too. And this Iran thing may be the thing that gets us out of that. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. I mean, just
Yeah.
like this whole deal here, time will tell. Um, uh, President Trump, whether you love him, whether you hate him, he's rolling the dice
All the
and
time.
going scorched earth. He has nothing to
Yeah.
lose. I mean, he's 80 years old and he's rolling it. He's rolling the dice. You can't fly his ego in 1747. It takes two.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that'll work or not. I mean, I admire him in many ways. In some ways, I cringe. Um, he's unpredictable, fascinating figure. I hope
Hmm.
we don't wind up in World War III or in nuclear war primarily, but it could go either way. And this is just my thoughts. It could go either way.
Yeah.
And if he pulls all this off, he could go down as the greatest of all. He could be the goat. But if he doesn't, uh, our $1,000 won't matter anymore,
It's
Joe.
gone.
It's gone.
You know, look at but you look at how his relationship with those players in the Middle East. I
Mm.
mean, he's all in. He's at the table with them all the time. What's he done to Europe? He said, "We're pulling out of NATO. We're doing all this. Y'all are going to start paying this." I mean, he's basically, he's not negotiating with them very much, and they don't like that. They're not used to that. But
I heard someone who's he worked for the CIA. I can't remember the man's name. I'll have to look that up. But he's um, our State Department and Department of Defense or Department of War now. Um, it's called sharing the burden, and they're doing that to the Middle East now because we've gone into Iran with a limited. I mean, we got some firepower, but we didn't send everybody. A limited amount of munitions and planes, uh, pilots, whatever, and then but everybody else is going to have to help pay for this. So
yeah,
you know when they launch rockets or missiles at everybody else, I mean it's drawing everybody else in, and they bakes, excuse me, have told the Europeans the same thing. We've been carrying you for 80 years.
yeah,
We're the empire, but we're broke,
yeah.
and you're going to have to start paying your own way, and they're not liking that.
Well, exactly. And if you look at what there's still lots of money in Europe held by certain people in each country, just like us. But they're not really exporters, and they've got so much turmoil because of immigration and they're just their policies that they're in probably more turmoil than we are. But if you go to the Arab states where that's really an oligarchy. I mean, but there's more money there. I mean, over the next decade, 2 or 3 decades, whatever, the future is in that money is in the Middle East, which sounds crazy to me, but it is. And I feel like he's just changing horses, and he's following the money too. Instead of fighting for deals with the European Union, let's just go over here and have a little skirmish and see if we can curry some favor with the Arabs, and let's trade. Let's do some deals. That's what it looks to me like.
I think I think you may be right. I mean, it's um, like I say, it changes daily. Uh, the
Yeah,
goalpost moves every day. I mean, actually, more than once a day. You wake up in the morning and you read the news, or you watch a press conference or whatever, and by the afternoon, something's changed. So you just never really know. It's kind of like Forrest Gump and his box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get.
exactly.
So, and I don't know. I think maybe his mo is he likes it that way.
He, he's like them. He's like them guys buying stuff on the stock market. They don't care. Just if it goes up and down, we don't care. We just need to move so we can make a dollar here or there. Just we need movement, and I think he's the same way.
I thinking about our conversation. There's times I yearn for a simpler way of life. And like I told a granddaughter of mine, Dad said, you don't have to have any money. You can go live out in the sticks. You can go out in the desert, and you can get you a tent, and
Yeah,
you can, catch lizards or whatever, eat grass and drink water, and you can survive. But what kind of life are you going to have? I said, I still like to have stuff.
yeah,
I still like to have stuff. I like to have some comforts and air conditioning. Once you have all that kind of stuff, uh, it's kind of hard to let it go. Uh, we're creatures of habit, and we like comfort and we like convenience, especially
yeah,
as Americans. We love convenience. But yeah, I, I think you talked about the agrarian way of life. Um, I don't know if that'll ever happen again in our lifetime or not. Um, I got a feeling things have happened before. I mean, you look back in history, everything that we're experiencing in some ways happened before.
hmm
Empires rise and fall. There's economic turmoil. There's social unrest. There's revolution. There's we attack another country, or countries attack us. That's been going on all throughout recorded history, but we're the ones living in it right now. So it's
hmm
all new to us, especially me and you. I mean, we've never. We were born at the tail end of Vietnam, and wasn't your dad in? Was he in the service in Vietnam? And so we have knowledge of that, but we didn't live it. I mean, directly because we weren't old enough. And then I remember when we was in high school. We were worried about the Russians, and then
yeah.
and then the Cold War came
Mr.
through.
Long made us watch the day after.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
that?
Had us wound up, man. We were wound up. The Russians were coming, and I remember being a little kid, when they had us practice them drills, and you got under the desk and takes an atomic bomb hit, and I was just thinking, even then, how good is this going to work? You know?
Yeah, I don't feel better about this. Do you remember that old? And this may get just up to PG, but I just remember when I was a little kid, we lived in South Texas, and we had some neighbors at those apartments, and that's the old man that lived. But I was best friends with his boy, but in the bathroom, this guy was just a character. But in the bathroom, this would have been about 1975 or six, so it's post. We're still in the middle of the Cold War. But in his bathroom, he had a dang poster, and it said, "In the event of nuclear war, uh, place your right." He was right in front of the toilet. Just place your hands on your knees, bend your head forward, your back forward, your neck down, and kiss your ass goodbye.
Pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's you think about all those things, the threat. You know, I used to go to bed at night when I was a kid after watching the news and listening to some people. You know, we were just thinking any minute the Russians were going to, we was going to see them missiles
Yeah,
heading our way, and we were all going to die of nuclear holocaust. You know, and all that, and that still could happen now. And it's a shame that that stuff was ever invented. But uh, I I don't know if we're making the right decision over there right now. I'm just going to have to roll with it and trust that they're going to do the right thing. And like I said, don't bring us all down with it.
yeah,
Um, I know if I was running Iran, which I'm not, and I'm glad I'm not, I would want a nuclear weapon because, there's another country in uh, in Asia called North Korea, and uh,
yeah,
and they're just as bad, but they got their nukes online, so we don't mess with them
right.
because they're crazy, and we know that they're it's like that
Yeah,
crazy aunt or uncle with a shotgun after he's had a couple of drinks. You
yeah.
just kind of got to stay away from them.
Don't rile him up.
Hopefully, keep them happy. So yeah,
Don't bring up his first wife.
not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, I hope it turns out well over there for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
Uh, I'd like our kids and grandkids to. I would like my grandchildren to be able to experience the American dream that you and I've got to experience. Where you know as Americans, in Western culture, everybody's uh, uh, judged on your economic or your social status. That's not success. Pursuit of happiness is not just about making money. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you got the right to chase it.
yeah. Yeah,
And that's
the
what
the opportunity.
I hope my grandkids will have that opportunity to be able to pursue their interests and their dreams, and hopefully make the world a better place, and come see us when we get really old.
Yeah, that's what I hope for. And all those things. And I guess you asked me way earlier if there was, and this was more about farming and was is there any bright spot? But there's no bright spot until we stop, until we learn to get along again. You know, you and I have got friends that don't share. They see the world differently, and I'll be honest, I don't. It doesn't bother me, but sometimes it bothers some of them. And I know I've got friends that that it bothers them that somebody doesn't see it their way. But by and large, I just don't care. If you,
I don't, because we get to picking sides, and I have an opinion, but uh, I think these things right here uh, cause a lot of that. Um, they get you revved up. If I go on, the first real social media site, Facebook, Meta, whatever it's called now. After this conversation, there'll be something on there that shows up in my feed that if I let it, it'll piss me off.
yeah,
It gets
yeah,
you riled up, and then it'll show me an ad. They got to sell me something, and then I
that
might
makes me
see,
even madder.
one of my friends' children or grandchildren's birthday party pictures or their vacation pics. That's about every 10th one. It used to be that's what it was. When
Yeah,
we all got on there, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, wow, I hadn't seen him since we got out of high school, and now
hmm,
he's got a family and all that, and it was just about that. Now it's tribalism, and it's left and right, and there's no happy medium, man. I mean, it's wicked.
yeah,
But if we all got together, some of us that disagree vehemently about politics, whatever, religion, whatever you want to call it, if we all got together in the same room, had a couple of beers, we'd all be getting along just fine, just like we used to.
that's what I've noticed because had conversations with people that I know are totally opposite of me, not just politically, but just ideologically overall. But when you sit down, if you're talking about your family, the weather, some funny story, when you break it down and put put that stuff aside, everybody just we're just people, and we have way more in common than we don't. And it's hard for us sometimes to to tear ourselves away from that. But the social media, the phones, the technology, and that sometimes I don't know that it was by design, but they take advantage of it and they use it to keep us picking sides. What do I haven't, I'm kind of like you on Trump, but how do you how he lives his life, or any of those politicians that I would agree with, they don't have a lot of they do have bearing on my life, but not as much as my Democrat neighbor that I work, or a Democrat coworker or whatever it is. I have more. They have more influence on me than those people do. Well, we
Exactly.
can we can do more good to each other than those people at the top food chain can do for us. And until we can see that, we're 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 never we're not going to get there.
I think of an old movie line. It's from the Gangs of New York. You ever see that?
Oh yeah,
It's uh, it's a great show. It's rough, man. It's really a tough
it,
show. But
Daniel Day Lewis. Yeah,
yeah, the guy that ran Tammany Hall, it
huh?
was kind of the political center of New York. I'll never forget this line. He said, "Don't worry about these people. You can hire one half of the population to kill the other half."
That's
And I
right.
think, and I think that's where we are. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'm serious. You can hire one half to kill the other half, and I think it's gotten that serious with some people. Um, but I don't know, and I think we can close with this. I read this today. It came across something I was looking at. Lou Holtz, old football coach. He just passed away recently,
Huh?
and I saw him speak in person one time and met him. I mean, just
Real deal.
he was a real deal. I mean, he acted shaking my hand. He didn't know me from Adam. I was nothing. He just like you see him when you saw him on television. But he had three rules, and he said, I've lived a long time, and I had three rules, and he said I've never seen a need for a fourth one. Number one is do the right thing. Never a wrong time to do the right thing, and never a right time to do the wrong thing. I
Yeah.
heard him say that many times. He said, if you'll do the right thing, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to lie. Just do the right thing.
Yeah.
And
Let's do it.
then number two is give it all you got. Whatever you're doing, if you do the very best job you can, then you can end the day with no regrets. And he said the third one, which is probably the most important, is just to be kind to others. Don't
Hmm.
wait till somebody's lost somebody or they're on their deathbed to be kind to them. Be kind to them when you meet them walking down the street. I have tried to emulate that because I get caught up in life and I got my mind on this and I got my mind and I've got a business problem here and I've got this there and I've got, you know, anything.
Yeah.
Plumbing's backed up. My lightning strikes and my electricity goes out for 2 hours. We had that last week.
Yeah.
There's always something. Life is just life. It's that four-letter word. But, Mother Teresa said that, be kind. It's not always, even when somebody doesn't deserve to be kind anyway. So that's my goal as a person is to be kind to everyone. Because, I've got friends and I've got family that don't see things my way, but they're still my friends and they're still my family. Even
Hmm.
though we may not agree on everything, because hell, if we all agreed and we're all in this echo chamber, how boring would life be?
Yeah.
So, otherwise, we wouldn't be talking today trying to figure out where our $1,000 is. So,
I'm waiting. I'm still waiting.
you're still waiting. Yeah, but man, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have to.
we we're going to have to do this again soon, and we'll bring up uh, more more ways to solve the world's problems. And I hope that grandbaby is born healthy and everything goes well.
Oh yeah,
And
it'll be
and
fine. We're having family fights over what they're gonna name him. They've already got him named, but they won't tell us. And
got you.
I said, I don't care what your name is. What I'm gonna call him.
You're gonna have a pet name for him. You're just like me. I got names for everybody, and it's not their real name. So yeah, they're just gonna have to go roll with it.
That's it.
All right, my old friend. Good to see
Okay,
you, and hope to see you in person soon. Give everybody my best, and we'll do it again.
do the same. We'll see you.
All right,
Thanks.
buddy.